Doddsy Meets is back again. I'm joined by Morton in the Community Chief Executive Brian McLaughlin. Brian, how are we?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on. Hope you're well also.
Yeah, I'm not bad. Getting on as well as we can be during the most testing of lockdowns yet, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the surviving stage at the moment. I'm usually quite active and it's quite a struggle to sit at my desk all day in the house, but we're getting there. We're safe and well, which is the main thing.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of things to be lucky for just now, isn't there, despite all the restrictions in place?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I just read something the other day, like people saying if you're working from home, you've got a job in a house. So I quite liked that wee quote the other day. It gave me a wee boost because probably the first lockdown was interesting. We very furlough wasn't even a thing when we started working from home, and it was very uncertain. But we managed to get through it, and we managed to get some activity stuff before Christmas, which was exciting. And like everyone, you get so much and you want more. And then just seems after Christmas we've took a couple of steps back. But listen, if we need to do it, we need to do it.
Yeah, and I think the first question I was going to ask you was that Morton and the community have been able to adapt so much over the course of the lockdowns, haven't they, to still be providing services and activities and groups over the
Yeah,
lockdowns, haven't they?
yeah, definitely. I think, as I said there in last March, it was scary times. I'm not going to lie. We might have had some difficult decisions with some staff, and listen, I was upfront and honest with them, and myself included in that probably because our delivery model is people coming to stadiums, coming to football pitches, coming to games halls. So initially we went home and tried to go online, which for us was brand new, and for a lot of people it was brand new. But we managed to get the furlough scheme, and everyone went on furlough initially. Sorry, apart from myself, and we started to look at what we can and can't do. So we kept our Team Talk project online, which actually started online in the end of February. Just we had sort of insight of what was to come, and then we looked at homeschooling, speaking to my sister, and she had two boys and try to work, and one boy who loves football. So we started sharing stuff, and I think I shared one of your match reports, which we appreciate. And then at the moment we're doing some employability stuff and fitness sessions online. So we're still engaging people and trying to help as much as we can. And it's a credit to the staff for adapting so quickly also.
Yeah, and I mean, and to flip it into a positive, it's kind of kicked Morton in the community to a whole new level because it's given you another dimension to provide, well, yeah, basically to provide from.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're sitting on Zoom just now, and that wasn't even a thing in my mind
Hmm.
until probably March, and it's allowed us to engage people. And but like for example, Team Talk we're doing a Monday night. We've got two guys who still attend who are not from Inverclyde. When we go back to the stadium, we're going to maybe look at ways where we can maybe have face to face, but also Zoom in the background, and it's just opened our mind a wee bit, but also it allows us to continue to engage people when we thought it was maybe quieter times.
Aye, and I mean it's also kind of been a Morton in the community's also been a shining light throughout as well. Like it's given people just an outpost to get in contact with at all times, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've been here for over 7 years now. It's actually nearly 8 years in March, for which 6.5 have been my life, and we've always been, since I've been in post, I've always been open and honest and wanting to help people. I would genuinely never say no to any sort of project or any support, or if I couldn't help someone or put a project on, we would always signpost. So we're hoping we can continue that. But what we've done, we've looked at the most vulnerable members of the community in the last year or so, and thought, well, we can't just disappear. It's so easy to follow everyone and
Hmm.
sit with the feet up until we go back to the normal, whatever normal may look like. So we're not disappearing, but we're continuing to try and help as much as we can, and we're always open to help people if anyone got in touch as well.
Yeah, and I mean, in a community like Inverclyde, a project like Morton in the community is massive, isn't it? Like Inverclyde's somewhere that from the outside in, look, it prides itself on the community spirit and being there for one another.
Yeah, I mean, you've probably seen that through lockdown. The Belleville Community Garden, Compassionate Inverclyde, similar to what I just said, it's so easy to use the furlough scheme because ultimately it's there, but instead the third sector in Inverclyde decided, well, let's just roll up our sleeves and help and deliver meals or pick up prescriptions or just general wellbeing checks and stuff. So no, it gets a lot of labels in Inverclyde, and I've openly said that before around sort of poverty. It was at one point, and it was a COVID capital at one point, but for me that provides opportunities. Every negative, as you say, there's definitely a positive in there for us.
Aye, and you have in the 7 3/4 years that you have been a thing. You have just gone from strength to strength, haven't you? And you've been able to to help in those times as well.
Yeah, I mean, in my time there, we used to do football only, mainly, and sort of game halls and football pitches. But probably about 2 or 3 years ago, we tried to streamline everything we do. And my biggest sort of mantra is sustainability and impact. So don't do something for 6 weeks, because if you take that away, some people might rely on that. So we've tried to really support the community, but keep it sustainable as much as we can, because ultimately we don't want people to go back the way. We want people to feel part of it, and they might move on to maybe employment if it's an employability project, but we're still here to support people. And that's something that, well, as long as we're here, and certainly as long as I'm here, that's something we'll always look at as long-term vision of supporting Inverclyde.
Yeah, no, and I mean, as much as you're lucky to have Morton are as lucky to have you, if that makes sense. Like, he's worked so well hand in hand, don't you, to provide each other with the coverage, really.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Morton community doesn't exist without Morton Football Club, and it's so important. Over the last year or so, we've not had many opportunities due to obviously current restrictions, but the support we've had from the club over the last 7 years or so has been fantastic, and that includes Crawford Ray as well, with the support from sort of Golden Casket around financial side in terms of helping with payroll and stuff like that. So the support's fantastic, but hopefully the support we give the club is also merited and beneficial for them also, because it's a community club, it's one club town, and for me football clubs are these interesting things. If I go away anywhere, I'll go and visit the local football club. If I go on holiday, I'll go and find a stadium. So hopefully that is still going to be the centre of what we do moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean, Morton is like, as you've said it, haven't you? Like, football clubs are the heart of most communities, the local team anyway. And I think Morton and Inverclyde kind of, like, there's so much scope there for clubs like Morton and things like Morton in the community to really thrive, and like, you've already kicked on into a new level through the lockdowns. But once things go back to normal, the scope's there to go even further, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I spoke about third sector earlier on in Inverclyde, but if it goes bigger than that, look, nationally, you look at what football clubs done, or football community trust done over the last year or so. They really went above and beyond, and I'll say it a lot. 3 o'clock on a Saturday is very important. I'm a football fan. I love the game, but it's so much bigger than what you see on a Saturday afternoon. And I think the future we're going to continue to do that, and there's probably changes ahead at the club, as you know, and I think there's real opportunity to really work hand in hand and get that Morton badge out there as much as we can, because when we used to have our camps and stuff, we tried to have a Morton day or a blue and white day, just so kids are falling in love with the club at the earliest possible age, and hopefully they become lifelong fans or players, or you never know, that affiliation, it can go from generation to generation.
Yeah, and again, it's. I mean, you could kind of say clubs like even like Morton in the community kind of find yourself fighting with the old firm at times. Not fighting, but like competing with them. I think it's a better way to put it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the big two are always going to be there, aren't they? And it's generations that get passed down. People are football fans because of mum or dad or gran or granda. But listen, if we can get as many kids or many young people involved in the club, or affiliated with the club in terms of the badge, offer them a good service, have that sort of life participation within their family as well. I mean, there's going to be benefits for the club in Inverclyde. I think one of the moments where we noticed that sort of participation around families, we delivered an employability programme at Caplo once, and at the same day we were doing an education programme, and the mum was on the employability programme and she met her daughter who was on the education programme in the stadium on the same day. And for me, that's impacting a generation of families. So hopefully that continues and they have a positive experience, and it's not just, as we say, 3 o'clock on a Saturday going and cheer your team on, shout at the ref, shout at the team, whatever. It's that bigger picture we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, it's making it. I think it's the pride of Inverclyde, isn't it? I think that's the main outcome, isn't it?
Yeah, the heartbeat of Inverclyde, we said. So the reason for that is we feel as if we're in the middle of the Inverclyde. We're there to support, and hopefully, we, as I said earlier on, if we can't support someone, I'll openly try my hardest to get them support. So in the last couple of days, for example, someone spoke to me about Team Talk. The gentleman doesn't have an IT device or access to Wi-Fi. So for the last 2 or 3 days, I've been speaking to other people and CVS Inverclyde, Your Voice, and hopefully in the next 2 days he's going to have a laptop or a tablet with access to Wi-Fi and he can connect with us. So we'll try our best to help, but if we can't, we'll find the right help for you.
Yeah, and I mean it's good things like that it's the feel good stories that kind of make these things worthwhile, isn't it? Like obviously not just for yourself, but like as a whole, it's promoting that good community spirit as well.
Yeah, and I think it's so rewarding. It's just when you help someone, you get a good feeling. But the staff they work with us on a daily basis before COVID, we used to see them come back to the office smiling and happy from projects because they've helped someone. And our impact, I mean, you look at football, you can work with a footballer from a young age, develop them through academy into the first team. That's a long time development. Whereas for us, we can develop people over one session potentially. That's an hour or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So it's that overnight stuff we really see. And I think just seeing the staff happy that they're helping people, you just get that sense of achievement, and we'll continue to do that, hopefully in the future.
Yeah, and I mean, just to kind of take it all back to the beginning, I mean, you are the driving force behind Morton in the community. What made you want to start it up?
Well, I came in after about a year or so, and for me, I was thinking about this earlier on, how I got to here, and I think for me, football's always been my passion, and probably like all of us, we wanted to be a footballer, never going to be good enough to be a footballer. And for me, I started at the club in the academy way back before Derek Anderson even came in, just taking one team. From there, moved on to other employment, and then Sean Crichton was actually working at the community trust at the time, and then he signed for Morton at the time to go full time. So there was an opening for me, and I spoke to Warren at the time, and we managed to get a contract and stuff. And then since then, it's just went. I think within the first 4 weeks, I was promoted because Tom left at the time, and within 6.5 years, I've had 5 job titles. But for me, I do it because I've moved out of Inverclyde in the last year or so. But for me, Inverclyde's been a massive part of my life, and it will continue to be a massive part of my life. So all I want to do is help people in Inverclyde and hopefully leave some sort of legacy that Morton community or Morton Football Club's helped someone in health, sport, education or employability. And as I say, I enjoy it. I could probably sit here and talk about what we do and why we do it every for hours or so, but just that whole sense of achievement for me, and I'm quite driven where I like change. Sometimes change isn't good for people, but for me change is great, and if we can do something, we'll do it as long as it's sustainable and long term.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of just relays that whole community aspect of football, doesn't it? Like, I think we've obviously touched on it in other way, shape, or forms, but like, football's a national language. It doesn't matter your race, your language, what country you come from. You'll always understand football. You'll always understand the just the simple terms of like pass, shoot, defend, stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it really unites people, football, and it always has done. And I always think of football stadiums, and luckily enough, we can go to the football stadium every day, or we could pre-COVID to work. And I remember for the first 6 months or so, I used to sit in the main stand and eat my lunch and just look at a big bit of green grass, which, if you looked at the back of the park for 5-10 minutes, but you could look at a football pitch for hours. And when you look at the stadium, you think these places used to be closed Monday to Friday, maybe open every second Saturday, but now across the country they're open 7 days a week, or previously before COVID, obviously. But now these are spaces where people can come and learn and develop. And and before, I know I'll go back to it again, it's so much more than Saturday afternoon, and Saturday afternoon will never disappear, because I get the same feeling on a Saturday afternoon as probably every football fan. Nerves, excitement. 5 o'clock might be a bit of jubilation, might be anger, but that'll always be there. So now football can really benefit people in a much bigger way. And listen, people come to us for support who don't even know anything about football, probably never kicked a football in their life. And for me, that shows why we do it is so important.
Yeah, of course. And it helps when like you've had players buy into it and they've came along to like camps and stuff like that, the summer camps for the kids. It helps. That must help you out so much in terms of not just promoting it, but just getting the whole message across as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've all got role models. I mean, I've still got role models at 35 now, and you always remember. I can remember growing up and meeting footballers randomly or seeing footballers in the airport, but being up close and personal with footballers for these young players. I go back to what I said earlier about trying to inspire young people to fall in love with the club or the game. And when players come to the camps or education programs, I mean, it's fantastic for these kids, and it's stuff they'll remember for a long, long time. Even when we're fortunate enough to deliver on the pitch at Capello, 4 and 5-year-olds playing football on the pitch at Capello, it's something they'll remember. We had we half-time activity where kids are playing at half-time of games previously, and this is stuff kids will always remember. Mum and dad will always remember it as well, because they'll get that picture of their son or daughter, and for me that's inspiring people, and hopefully as they progress long term they'll remember them. I go through a stage at the moment where I meet a lot of sort of 18, 19, 20-year-olds when I'm out at maybe buying a coffee or going to McDonald's or whatever, and now I'm being served by these kids who I used to coach when they're 9 or 10, and it gives me great satisfaction to remember me. But now you're looking at them thinking they're a man, or
Aye,
what
like God, I'm
happened?
old.
Yeah. But hopefully that's inspiring people. Even like to make a footballer is difficult. We all know that. But for me, the biggest thing is as long as I still play the game. So randomly on a Saturday, I'll just go and watch football if I've got nothing to do. Maybe go and watch a junior game or whatever. And if I can remember, see a kid who I used to coach playing junior or amateur, it still gives me satisfaction, because
Because they're
ultimately they're still in love with the game.
doing something productive as well, and not hanging about street corners stereotypically and stuff like that.
Yeah, or even some of these young players now are at college doing sports coaching, and they're coming volunteering with us or potentially coaching with us. So for me, they've been inspired along the way. I'm not saying that's me, but the game has inspired these people.
Yeah, and it's totally like projects like this, as you said, it's totally changed the way that football clubs reach out to the community, doesn't it? Like, as you said, places like Capello were open 7 days a week for folk to go in and either come in and speak to yourself, or like Brendan and as a club secretary and stuff like that. And beforehand, it would have maybe been again just we can only go there see our heroes, isn't it? On a like every other Saturday, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I can count countless times how many times I've been sitting in the office and people come into Capello, guys from England doing tours of stadiums, local people, I'm just passing by, can I see the pitch? And the answer's always absolutely go and see it, because if I go on holidays, much to my girlfriend's dismay, we'll always probably find a stadium, and if we go a city break, we'll maybe squeeze in a a stadium tour, which usually costs me money later on to maybe take her to an art gallery or buy her a meal. But for me, these are just these hidden places that they're fantastic no matter where they are and what they are. I think Capello's a unique selling point. You look at all these new stadiums, but for me, the history of Capello and the crane in the background, old pictures of thousands upon thousands of people, and that crane's still there, so it's huge. But when we deliver projects at Capello as well, it's more of a novelty factor, and it's a unique learning environment for people as well. It's not an educational environment in terms of maybe a school or a college. So again, there's a novelty factor there that I think if you get people in, you can hook them, inspire them. So it's got its benefits massively.
Oh, it's hugely, and we've seen that with the stuff that, like obviously you said, team talk, the stuff with the schools. I've seen other clubs jumping on that since, and I think Queens did something similar to not instead of the match reports, it was your times tables with the squad numbers and stuff like that. So just even things like that, just to keep people engaged and keep people ticking over. It's like even more so now. It's so vital, isn't it?
Yeah, huge. I mean, if you look at previously, I mean, when I was in school, best thing about school for me was PE probably, and playtime or lunchtime to play football. But now kids are coming in, their classroom is the changing room. There's strips in the wall, they're adding, subtracting player numbers. They're in the boardroom where it's VIPs only, they think. And it's just these unique learning environments. And from our education programmes, the feedback we've had from teachers is huge, because they say, well, these kids don't really engage in school, but we're talking maybe a different language in terms of football when we do stuff around match commentating, and they don't know who a commentator is, but if you say who plays FIFA, straight away their face lights up. Who talks during the FIFA game? That's the commentator. So it's just trying to relay the message, what they're being taught in school, in a different environment and related to football, which it seems to work. And hopefully in the next year or so we can invite people back to Capello, but that's the exciting part, when we can do all these projects face to face again.
Yeah. Do you think we'll ever go back to proper full capacity face to face stuff again, or do you think that's some while off?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it'll be a while off yet, but the beauty of Capello is you could probably social distance either in the stand. So Team Talk, for example, we used the main stand for 3 or 4 months in the sort of summer, I'll say in inverted commas. Don't get me wrong, we got absolutely attacked by midges, but coming to Team Talk at the stand, we could social distance. Hopefully in the future, you look at the lounges at Capello, the bigger ones, you could probably social distance in there. So when it's safe to do so, we'll do it. But until then, I think we're just going to need to do it online and over the phone and stuff. But hopefully we can still help people as much as we can.
Yeah, and I mean, has there been any like projects that have stood out for you that you've thought I'm really, really happy with it?
Probably over the sort of 7.5 years before COVID, we've delivered 25 projects on a typical sort of period. That would be our sort of baseline. And all of them have got their benefits. Football for me is always going to be fantastic, but football for me happens and it will continue to happen. But there's probably 2 that jump out, and one's Active Age, which is within care homes. So Johnny, our health project worker, goes around 8 care homes and plays games with various residents. Works with over about 100 people in that programme, all in care homes, and the main aim is to get people out of their room and to engage in activities. And we're proud that one of the residents is over 100 years old and they're engaging in Morton activities. So that project's massive, and the benefits we've had from that in terms of, this is all pre-COVID, but people leaving their room for the first time, people going to walk for the first time in years, families giving us feedback on their mum or gran or granda, whoever it may be, the positive benefits they can see. So that project's massive for us. And then the second one, and it's probably one of the most powerful ones, is Team Talk, and that's been delivered now for about 18 months, virtually and face to face, and the impact we've had on that's been huge for us. And some of the guys' stories is so powerful. I think Amy from the Greenock Telegraph produced one last week around Stephen and his story. And I'll be honest, when I read stuff like that, if I get a real sense of pride, but you also get a wee tear in your eye to think the guys have done that. And so yeah, and I think these projects are totally left field. It's not really football. It doesn't really involve a football. It's got nothing to do with 22 players on a pitch. So yeah, they two are probably the biggest ones, I think, has got the most impact at this moment in time.
Yeah, well, I knew about when I was in first year at college. I knew about Team Talk in the January, and I didn't get the job at the Tilly until the July. So that's kind of showing you the reach that stuff like that I had. I had no connection to Inverclyde previous to that, and then I'd already known. So you're obviously getting such a far reach on stuff like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, we probably planned it for about 9 months, and I stopped launching it because I just knew it had to be right. We had to make a commitment that every Monday the stadium would be open pre-COVID. If Monday was Christmas Day, we would probably change it to the Sunday or the Tuesday, depending how we would fit that in. But we made a commitment that every Monday between 7 and 9 that stadium's open until we went online. And yeah, it's one of these projects that probably will never disappear now. We can't. There's similar projects having these impacts, and they shouldn't disappear. If we'd done that for 12 weeks, for example, on week 13, I don't know what I would be thinking, whereas people didn't phone them. So we've made that decision that every week it's going to be on. And we've been fortunate Christmas hasn't been a Monday yet, but it will come soon. So we'll adapt on that. And but the guys are brilliant. The guys the peer support. They go walks together. They go and play golf, all within restrictions. And the support they give each other helps us as staff because that's why they're there. They help each other. But yeah, so that's interesting. And we've also added a wee coffee club on a Friday for the guys just to meet over Zoom and get an informal catch up for 30 minutes and talk about everything and anything. So yeah, it's interesting, but
it's a lifeline as well.
Oh, massively. And just even the WhatsApp group on the side. I've had guys contact me on a Saturday night in tears. And don't get me wrong, I'm sitting on the couch watching a movie or whatever, and you can't not answer that.
Yeah.
So it's a massive lifeline for people, and the pandemic's probably accelerated that as well. So we'll continue to do it, and it'll be here for, I'll say, forever.
Aye, no, and it will, stuff like that will be, because there is always going to be a need for something like that, which is not saying that's a good thing, because obviously men's mental health is such a huge issue, but the fact that there'll always be a need for stuff like this means that there's always going to be outposts for people to engage with.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we were doing a research on it, Inverclyde did the second highest male suicide rate. So straight away we wanted to try and use the draw of the club, and we started it. And I think the first night one person showed up, but we said all along, if one person shows up every single week, we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
On average, we get about 10 or 12 now. A couple of them don't engage with us at the moment on Zoom, but we still try to pick up the phone to them or drop them text messages just to say we're here, because, Zoom isn't for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want to isolate people, and we don't want to make them feel uncomfortable either coming on Zoom.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like people adapting to Zoom has been strange. Like it's looking at these people being able to see in your home, and like it's like virtual backgrounds and stuff like that. It helps you hide that. So there's the whole mental side of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people maybe have never used a computer in their life either, who engage with us on Team Talk, and that's a barrier. And we try and support that by offering maybe devices, but some people are on Zoom 24/7 with work and don't want to come on because
They want to
they're
switch it off.
knackered. Yeah. So there's so many challenges, but we've tried to reach out to people as much as we can with maybe phone calls or text messages, and even Johnny going to play golf with one of the guys, I think back in, was it August, September time, just for someone else to do and engage people. So always looking at ways we can help people, because we don't want to isolate people, especially if we offer a service. And it goes back to that sustainability stuff and impact for me.
Yeah, no, of course. And I mean, to kind of switch the attentions onto kind of the actual on the part side of things, obviously 20 minutes before we started recording this, news came out that Jim McAlister's going to play his last game for Morton tomorrow and hang up his boots. I think it's totally shocked the fella that everybody in and around the club, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite a shock for everyone, as you say. But I think from what I've known Jim over the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 years or so, he's been excellent for us. And pre-COVID, he would come in the office, chat away to you, and any sort of support for like camps and stuff we spoke about earlier on. He's been always willing to help us. Great career as well.
Oh, hugely.
Like going down south and the stuff he's done there, and then coming back up, and it's probably a bit of a fairy tale coming back to sort of captain. And sadly, I think it was always going to end at Morton in terms of his career, but sadly, it's probably came as a shock that it's
So
now
early.
opposed to maybe end of season or next season. So, but no, listen, we wish Jim all the best, because, as I say, he's supported us massively, and he's a great guy as well, which goes into the bargain for me also. So,
Oh yeah,
no,
of course.
hugely successful.
Yeah, and he's actually probably the perfect role model for people in Inverclyde to look up to, isn't he? Obviously, Rossi, born and bred, came to play for his local club for a while, and then he's gone away and had a really, really, as you said, what a career he's had for the last 20 years.
Yeah, his story's brilliant. It's so relatable for people, and I think the biggest thing about his story is that whole commitment to football. Like, coming from Rossi, as you say, it's a huge commitment, especially however many years ago that was. It's a lot of commitment, and hopefully he's not going to be a stranger, and he can be used for other things in the future, because he's been brilliant for the club, and I dare say he's probably been brilliant over the last 2-3 years also within the dressing room with maybe younger players looking up to him, like Reece, for example, similar position, maybe similar background in a sense. So he's probably had a massive impact on players that he probably doesn't realise, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's just, I think, I don't know the way to describe it. Probably he rubs off consistency onto people, doesn't he? Because I think Jim is Mr. Consistent no matter what he does. He's like commitment, the way he applies himself, how he plays, the way he plays, stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you just look at how much work he puts into it, and it's probably been difficult to work that hard at a consistent level for however many years it is now. But as you say, that rubs off on people. And there's probably so many people that look up to him, even up to now, and probably the weekend, tomorrow, sorry. There'll still be people looking up to him and what he does, and probably try and replicate what he does. You hear a lot about footballers looking up to people, replicating habits, and so no, it's a huge miss, but obviously we wish him all the best as well.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously Morton have had they've had a successful season up until this point, obviously sitting just outside the playoffs. Does that kind of rub off onto the projects that you carry out? I mean, if the team are doing well, are people maybe more open to coming along, or have you noticed anything like that?
I'd probably say yes and no. Like consistently, we've had massive input in our sessions and uptake. But obviously when the club's doing well and there's a buzz about the place in terms of not Caplow but Inverclyde around Morton, and I always remember when the semi-final via Aberdeen we had 50 odd youth academy players with us and all the community, there was a buzz. So if the club's doing well, it's probably an easier job for us, if that makes sense. But within the last sort of 5 years or so, we've started to really engage people out with the football. And at one point last 18 months ago, over 60% of our projects didn't even involve a football. So yes and no is probably the best way to put it. But obviously you want them to do well as much as we can and create that buzz and ultimately get Capello busy and get people speaking about Morton is hopefully what we can try and contribute to.
Yeah, and I mean, what's the future for Morton in the community? Like, what's obviously the sky's the limit by no means, but like, is there anything in the pipeline that you're really excited about?
Yeah, I think we had big plans sort of pre-COVID about education and trying to work with the sort of education department and the attainment team locally. I think there's always going to be plans around that because education for me is massive for kids, and especially the kids who are maybe living in deprived areas are statistically less likely to achieve. So hopefully we can utilise that and give people an opportunity. Also looking at just keeping the staff happy and continuing to deliver what they've been doing. I dare say there'll be a change here or there because no matter what happens, something always comes on your doorstep and you'll never say no to. But for me, it's just continue to do what we're doing well, keep doing what we're doing well, and make sure we're having the best impact on people as we possibly can.
And that has been the aim all the way through, hasn't it? Just the best effect possible.
Absolutely. I mean, I want people to talk about Morton in a positive way, no matter if that's a kid coming onto a football pitch or an adult in a care home aged 104 years old. I want people to have the most positive experience. Listen, we'll never get everything right. We never will. But anything we do and anything I try install in the staff is we do it for the right reasons, and that's to put people a smile on people's faces, develop them, and hopefully progress their life wherever that may be, whether it be the youngest age or the oldest age.
Yeah, it's a bit nuts to think about that, isn't it? You're impacting folk with such a wide age range. Like, I think that's kind of the beauty of it, is that it's there for everyone. It's not just like specifically for, like, say, 6 to 10-year-olds or like teenagers or like people in their 20s. It's for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I always call them players because it's the football term, but our youngest player is 18 months and our oldest player last year was 108. So it's probably everywhere in between, which not many organisations will do that. So yeah, it's interesting, and listen, it's always going to be change. It's always going to be exciting and a bit of a roller coaster at times. But as long as people are happy and happy with the service we provide, obviously feedback on any services I'm happy to take also, because I'm quite open-minded that if something's not right, I'll try and fix it as much as I can as well.
Yeah, and I mean, just for the final bit, if you want to go ahead and advertise things like Team Talk and the fitness stuff, by all means, go ahead, and we'll be able to put that in for you.
Yeah, so Team Talk every Monday night, as we say, typically on Zoom at the moment, 7 till 9. Don't need to put your camera on, don't even need to speak. You can just come on and listen. As you say, we've launched a new Get Moving with Morton class, which is a fitness session, all delivered at home for males and females. So that starts in 2 weeks' time, and that's going to be delivered by 2 local personal trainers, Gary Pettigrew and his partner Tiffany. So a male group and a female group. We'll still provide education materials on a weekly basis on social media, usually Morton Community is the name. But if anyone wants to get in touch or find out more about projects, probably the easiest thing to do is email admin@mortoncommunity.net, mainly because our office phone's off at the moment and we're all working from home. But find us on Twitter, find me on LinkedIn, email, whatever suits best, but we'll try and help as much as we can or get you onto a programme.
And no matter, just turning up is a good thing, isn't it? Like, there's so many benefits for it.
Yeah, absolutely. We always say the hardest thing is the first step. So if you look at Team Talk, for example, the hardest thing on a Monday night is to walk into Capello that first time or join the Zoom session. Or employability, the hardest thing is to walk in the first day or join the Zoom session for 6 weeks. The first step is always going to be the hardest, but we pride ourselves on keeping people within programmes. Our drop-off rate is very, very low, and I think that's a credit to the staff and volunteers we have. But the hardest step is making that first step, which is so crucial. But if there's ways we can help support that first step, whether it be one-to-one phone calls or one-to-one Zooms, whatever, we're always happy to do that as well.
Yeah, and I mean, again, my hat goes off to all the work that you do, because it's even when I was even when you asked me to send over one of my match reports for the kids, it was an absolute pleasure to do that. Even just helping out like that gives you such great satisfaction. So the fact that you're able to do that as a full time thing is brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, somebody once said to me, if you enjoy your job, you'll never work a day in your life. And don't get me wrong, I work some days because it's harder than others, but I genuinely enjoy what I do, and I'll continue to try my best to support people, because nothing's going to be a hassle for me. Sometimes I work 7 days a week, sometimes 5, but listen, I enjoy it, so hopefully I can continue to help people.
Thank you very much for coming on, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No, thank you. Loved it.
Nah, top man, mate. Hero, thank you.